Have you ever seen a homemade antenna that starts with something as ordinary as a phone charger? It sounds unlikely, but it actually works. In this video, I'll show you how I turned that everyday little charger into a functional antenna, step by step. The first step is opening the charger casing to remove the circuit board inside. This part requires extra care because a moment of carelessness is more than enough to earn yourself a nasty cut. The circuit board inside the charger is still a valuable component, and it's definitely not something you should just throw away. With this charger circuit board, I'll attach 2 single wires to make the later signal connections easier and more convenient. Let me ask you honestly, how many of you watching here actually know proper soldering techniques? It may sound simple, but making a clean, strong joint that conducts well is a different story altogether. It's a small skill, yet a very important one, especially if you enjoy working with electronics or doing DIY projects at home. 4 single-core wire, this thickness is really all you need. When it comes to homemade antenna projects, this type of wire works just fine. There's no real need to go any heavier. The USB port on this charger board isn't really necessary anymore. Leaving it there can introduce interference when the antenna signal enters the circuit, so removing it helps keep the signal cleaner and more stable. At this point, the charger circuit is all taken care of, so there's nothing left to worry about. I'll put the casing back on and move on to the next step. Have you ever wondered why I brought out this strainer? Take a closer look. Doesn't the mesh structure resemble a satellite dish? Exactly. That was the very first idea that came to mind the moment I saw it. Now, as for how this simple object can be turned into a mini signal dish, stay focused and watch how I handle the next part. Here I have a threaded rod about 10 centimeters long, along with 3 nuts. I'll be using this setup as the support stand for the mini signal dish. For the antenna base, I went with wood, which gives it a unique and interesting look. I also pre-drilled a hole that fits the threaded rod perfectly, making the support stand much more solid and secure. Once the threaded rod is firmly secured to the wooden base, I'll attach the charger to the surface using hot glue to keep everything stable and neatly in place. The mini signal dish isn't fully finished yet, as it still needs an additional homemade converter. Fortunately, this part isn't too complicated, and the components involved are simple and easy to find. Bolts, screws, and nuts are things most people recognize right away. But this small metal coupler is probably less familiar. It works as an intermediate connector to join two parts together, and honestly, it's far more useful than it looks. The converter I mentioned earlier is actually a spark plug. It may sound surprising since we usually only see spark plugs inside engines. But when you take a closer look at its construction, it starts to make sense. A spark plug has a solid metal core, excellent insulation, and is built to withstand heat and vibration. Thanks to those characteristics, it works as a very stable intermediate component, making it surprisingly useful for creative DIY projects. The next stage involves wiring. Earlier steps may have allowed for a more relaxed pace, but this is not the part to take lightly. Anything related to wiring requires full attention. One small lapse in focus can easily lead things in the wrong direction. For now, the basic antenna assembly is complete. However, to actually get the signal into the TV, there's still the signal cable that needs to be added. Using this recessed plug makes it very convenient to connect to the charger terminals, allowing the signal to transfer smoothly to the cable. Its compact design with only 2 prongs also adds an extra layer of safety, so there's no worry about kids sticking their fingers inside. The signal cable that leads to the TV is this coaxial cable you see in my hand. For now, I'll connect one end of it to the recessed plug first, and deal with the other end later on. Don't forget to wrap any exposed connections with electrical tape. It's a simple step, but it makes the setup safer and keeps everything neat and secure. On the other end of the coaxial cable, I'll attach a straight F connector along with a 90-degree F connector. This side of the cable will be used to connect directly to the TV during the testing phase. Alright, everything is fully assembled and properly in place. Now comes the most exciting part. It's time to test it and see how it actually performs. Before connecting the device to the TV, I'd like you to confirm that the TV is currently showing no signal. This is to prove that the results you're about to see are completely genuine, with no staging or setup involved. As soon as the connection was made, the TV immediately displayed a broadcast signal. That's an impressive result, but we still need to test it further to see how stable the signal really is before drawing any final conclusions. So far, nothing problematic has shown up at all, so I decided to unplug the connection and plug it back in once more to see how it behaves. So in the end, from a few ordinary and almost forgotten items, we managed to build a mini antenna that actually works. It may not be perfect, but that's not the point. What really matters is proving that with a bit of creativity and patience, simple things can lead to surprising results. If you found this idea interesting, feel free to try it your own way, because DIY isn't just about the final result, it's about enjoying the journey of making it.